Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is Thursday evening. It is the American Scouser TV Thursday night podcast. ASTV Tinnipa to the cool kids. Who watches your fantastic website, knows everything about it, and endorses it royally. This chap.
Jamie Carragher here, and I just want to give a little shout out to the American Scouser and all the supporters branches over there in the US. And I want to say a big good luck to the 24-hour podathon. Never heard of that before, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of people tuning in. I'll be one of them as well, and it's given me a little idea there as well. So something maybe I can copy off you and maybe bring it to some of the podcasts I've been on myself. So it's a brilliant idea, great initiative, and thanks for all your support for the 23 Foundation.
It doesn't get much better than that, boys. Does it? One of the greatest players of the modern era endorsing ASTV and all the other Tinnipas, Minipas, and pre and post match nonsense that we have. But yes, we do have a 24-hour podathon this coming weekend, Saturday into Sunday, leading up to our final preseason game, all for a fantastic cause. We have hourly sponsors, so we want people who, businesses, organizations, non-profits, anybody who would like to sponsor an hour. I myself am on one of the overnight hours, two of the overnight hours plus more. But if you sponsor my hours, which I think are like 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. on Eastern time on Saturday night into Sunday morning, I will do the Anfield rap on air, a cappella, with the accents. So we can get a sponsorship for those 2 hours. Even 1 hour, I will do the Anfield rap with accents.
That should just tell itself right there.
You can't lose on that day. You just cannot lose. But it's all for a fantastic cause. So make sure you watch. Make sure you donate if you can. Every little helps. That's how it goes. For charity, you can give $10,000. If you give $1, that $1 might be the thing that gets everything over the line. It's all important. But we're joined as always by Trevor and Brian. Trevor, how are you?
Fantastic.
Brian, how are you?
Doing great. Battling Hurricane Little Debbie.
Little Debbie, indeed. I think we've got a cooler weather pattern up here the last 2 days up here in New England, Trevor and myself. It was certainly not as hot as it was. Nice and spitty rain, as we call it back in Ireland. The fine mist that gets right through to your skin. It's been fantastic. Blake Bushy says, "What's up, my dudes?" Well, hopefully interested in our podathon on Saturday and Sunday. That's what should be up, and the donations as well. But we're good to see Blake here. As always, we are going to talk about some things tonight, as well as the podathon, because it's important and it's an awesome idea. But we will talk about transfers because we don't have a lot of them. So we will talk about what's going on with that. What are we looking for as fans in the transfer market? And are Macka's worst fears about Michael Edwards coming true? That he's essentially a power-hungry Skeletor that was just waiting for He-Man to leave the castle before he got his grubby hands on Etheria once again. I may have butchered the name of that. But also talk about the preseason so far, what we have seen from Arne Slot's Liverpool. I think there's been a lot of great things to see, maybe one or two concerns, and then we'll talk about the game and the podathon leading up to it coming up this weekend. We may stray off the beaten path during that and talk about other things, as is our want on Thursday night, because we're the mad lads. But we'll start with Trevor. Transfers, Trevor. We have signed nobody, as far as I can make out, or at least nobody that could be considered for the first team. Number one, are you worried? And number two, is this just yet another FSG thing where we're going to get into the last week sweating our backsides off, and then they're going to produce 2 or 3 gems that nobody expected?
Yeah, the prevailing sentiment right now is that Zubimendi from Real Sociedad is going to be the guy that comes in and kind of breaks the dam, so to speak. I kind of want that to happen sooner rather than later, because for as good of a player as he'd be and how much of a fit he'd be, I don't want it to be the day of the Ipswich game. It's like, oh wait, the season's starting, but also we got a player. He's not going to play for 2.5 weeks because he has to go through all of his stuff and get his work visas and all these things. But that I'm kind of on the fence. I'm in that position where I'm not necessarily panicking because I don't want to run it back with the team that we have. But if you just get two guys, if you get like a center back and a 6, I think you could go with this team. Granted, I think those two signings are incredibly necessary, but I think if you just do those things, you don't need a wholesale just 5 or 6 new guys. I don't think that is completely necessary. But on the other hand, yeah, leaving it late, I'm getting Arthur Mello PTSD. I don't like when it goes to the last week and then there's really nothing. And even on the other side, there's teams that aren't making a lot of moves, but they're shedding a lot of dead weight. We've gotten rid of an out of contract center back who was not coming back anyways, a guy who retired, a third string keeper, and a guy who I'm pretty sure is a hologram. That's been our business for the summer. That can't be if you expect to maintain in the top 4 in England.
Well, there you go. Brian, here's my question. What do you think of the transfer business so far? And the second part of the question is, are Jurgen Klopp's fears that I got the impression that he feared this throughout his entire tenure, that our transfer business is being dictated more by the balance sheet than it is by the tactical needs on the field?
Okay, so for first question right there, I'm not really that bothered. I think we still had a lot more dead weight to shed. Like I've been saying for many weeks, I think that midfield is way too overloaded. I think that we have to get rid of some of these younger kids because they're not going to get playing time. Bobby Clark, Tyler Morton, both of those really have to go. I mean, I don't see any pathway forward for them in the first team. So they're basically just kind of dead weight at the moment right there. They need to go on loan spells at the moment. I think the Endo needs to come there and yes. I think the Endo we need to figure out what we're doing with Endo and then move him on to replace him because obviously he doesn't fit slot system. So I'm not really that concerned right there. I think that there's a pathway of going forward to move some players, and then we'll sign some people. For the second question, if you're interested in signing a player that has a clause in there, and you want that player, pay the freaking clause. I mean, this whole thing with Zubamendi right now, it's a 51 million, it's a clause of 51 million pounds. If you're interested in him, put the money down right there. If he says he doesn't want to go, take the money out. I mean, easy, simple solution. I mean, Kazi said that in Discord. If he wanted, pay for it. I mean, quit trying to pitch pennies. And I feel like this is the same thing that we had with Edwards a couple seasons ago when he was here. This penny pinching shit. I mean, where it's like, okay, if I go there and give you a couple of stamps and a used tire, will you go there and give this player to me? I mean, and that's where we're at right now. We're just going there and grabbing and shuffling players along. I mean, even with the Anthony Gordon thing right there, where we were trying to offer Gomez out there for a make weight to go for him early in the season, it's still the same situation right there. I mean, that we're getting into. If you are interested in a player, pay the clause, move on right there. But I mean, I hope that the Zubamendi thing does get resolved sooner rather than later, or we move on. I mean, the alternatives I'm reading in the papers, like Rabat, absolutely not. I really do not want him in the club. Leave him right where he's at. I mean, and that's that. And as a post Juventus money grabbing guy, because that's what he is, him and his mom, and move on from that right there. He'll be perfect at Manchester United with all the other ones, but he doesn't belong here. So yeah, I think that I hope that Edwards is not going to be what we all think there's a possibility right there of being this guy who wants to control the entire pockets and then risk the club for the budget. I mean, part of the whole thing is for us to go in and have a full full team to compete here. And right now, we have a very incomplete team. Does it look great in the preseason? Sure, but it's incomplete. It's not gonna make us into a top 3, top 4, top 2 team at the end of May with what we have at the moment.
Trevor, I'm kind of getting little vibes of Brendan Rodgers' disagreements with the famous transfer committee, and especially the Mario Balotelli year, where it was, we're definitely signing a player. We're going to be signing this player. We're not signing Balotelli. I'll tell you that much. We're definitely signing a player. Okay, we've only got Balotelli. So that's being talked about, by the end of the preseason and by the end of the transfer window, Liverpool will sign a player. But if that ends up for some reason not being the case, or the player we do sign is a dud, it's just somebody that looks like they've signed him for the sake of signing him, does that cut Slot's legs off from day one almost?
The long and short of it is yes. And I think that's something that we all as fans have said from the beginning, that backing Slot and making this transition from Klopp to him as seamless as possible is a huge part down to that being the front office backing him. And I think so far, and I said it in the article I put on the site today, Edwards always wants to be the smartest guy at the table. But what good is that if you are the only person sitting at the table? Because nobody wants to come deal with you. It's both with players going out and guys coming in. As Brian said, the penny pinching, the haggling like you're at a flea market. If a guy's got a release clause, I think we could get him for 35. Just pay the 50. That is what is going rate these days. Unless you're rating like Cyprus or Paraguay, you're not getting those players for like $3 million anymore. It's just not happening. And these guys are just trying to just be these bargain hunters. But in the same breath, there's guys, we're getting bids for Carvalho, we're getting bids for Sepp. And yes, I think in Slot system, they may have a place. But if it's also something where you can move these guys on for 3 times what you paid for them, I think you got to just not cut off your nose to spite your face at some point. You got to go, well, oh, man, if we hold out and then these teams get desperate, no, they're just going to go somewhere else. Not everybody has that same weird hoarder's brain that Michael Edwards does, where it has to just be just anything to do to get one over on somebody seems to be what he wants to do. And I think that's in the long run, it's going to be an unhealthy mindset. But if you look at FSG as a whole, they probably love it because he's not going to go out and spend frivolously and has to make the 2 columns as even as humanly possible. When with the way things are and with the money that Liverpool is going to be making back in the Champions League, you can go a bit rogue on that front for at least 2 years. And then when you're, as SG says, when you're starting to kind of unload this old guard, then you're going to be making a lot of that money back. And then you're going to be able to just balance your books that way instead of just trying to do it all. Well, I can't spend $1 until I get $1 in. That's not how the sport works in this current state of affairs. And yeah, that more than anything, there has to just be some statement of intent. And that's what I've said. Just let us know what you're going for. You don't have to leak every single target. You don't have to tell us every meeting that you're taking. Just go like, no, we're hell-bent on getting a 6, and we're going to go do it. And leave it at that. But all this clandestine bullshit of just trust me. I know what I'm doing. I'm Michael Edwards. Do you know who I am? Okay, cool. a lot of people know who you are, and a lot of people seemingly don't want to talk to you. So that can only go one of two ways, and I'm hoping it doesn't go the bad one. And like I said, we end up with the Arthur Mello incarnate.
There is one good way to spend money that's always it's got to be profitable for you morally and spiritually, and that's if you contribute to the potathon. Spread the word. Sponsor it now. Donate to the auction. We're endorsed
on that very jersey.
On that very jersey, yes, exactly, and we are endorsed by the man himself. So that would be a good transfer investment if you're inclined to do it for us. But back to the transfer story, Brian. We're talking about Edwards, but there are layers underneath him who are also involved in the transfers. And it seems to me that maybe those layers are there to protect Michael Edwards, and that he really does have a firm hand on at least the overall transfer philosophy and strategy, even if other people are more directly involved in making the phone calls and sending the faxes and trying the carrier pigeon out with the transfer bid for Anthony Gordon. But I think Trevor makes a good point there, is that this whole idea of being the smartest person in the room really says to me that it's all about them. It's not about the club. It's not about the good of the team. It's all about them. Is it possible that Jurgen Klopp's disagreements with that kind of set of people was because his entire reason for being at Liverpool was to create a great team on the field, and their entire reason for being is to maybe, let me put it in a very obscure way, Aaron Sorkin their way through transfer business and create this painted world where they high-five each other on how brilliant they are and how clever they are. But in the end, it's not reality. The reality is you don't win trophies. Your work is up to nothing.
I guess you have to go there. And, I mean, to me, like, there's this whole transfer business, and being in that department is like how Edwards is and Hughes, is that you have to be the best of both worlds. You have to definitely balance the budget, because that's what FSG wants. I mean, they want a budget to be balanced so that we're there. But you also go there and need to make the squad attainable. You can't balance the budget without going there and having Champions League football at the moment. That's it. I mean, you have to have that income come in, and if you're not willing to go there to actually provide the squad the capability of going there, then you're not going to achieve your first thing, which is balancing the budget, and then you have to wind up selling something which is going to further drive you back down the table. And so I don't know, I'm not the smartest guy compared to Edwards. I'm not Mr. Billy Bean reincarnate, which is kind of what he wants to be right there. But there's like some things I'm worried about with this. One, I thought that Richard Hughes was supposedly this guy who had such a connection with Portugal, with these Portuguese talents. I haven't seen anything or heard anything more from Portugal. I mean, through there. So these are things I hear that I'm confused about.
He has a timeshare. That's his connection.
Probably right there. I mean, and also the whole process of selling high and buying low. You're not going to get yourself ahead. This isn't Football Manager back from this isn't how you play this game anymore. I mean, it's like it's, as Trevor said right there, these are the going rate for these players. I mean, and really, honestly, if you're talking about a guy who starred in the Euros this past year, and they want $50 million for him, you're going to pay $50 million for him. I mean, that's it. I mean, Arsenal had last year.
Arsenal paid 45 for a guy that got bounced in the round of 16.
Yes, I mean, also Arsenal came there last year, bid on Zubimendi right there, and he basically told him to go and kick rocks. I mean, so and I'm okay with that, to go sell high if we can right there. But if you're coming to an offer, we paid altogether, we paid, I think, with all the clauses and stuff like that for Carvalho, I think it was going to want to be like 15 million. I think it was something like that, and we got an offer for 25, and we turned it down. I mean, so or sorry, 16, and we turned it down. So we would have made our money back there, but we're holding out for 25. You might not get 25 because he's a Portuguese U21 player who really hasn't really achieved the level that you would expect for that. So yeah, we can sell high of players that we can sell high, but you got to go there and make your money on players that you can while you got it. I mean, again, if the manager doesn't rate Carvalho, sell him. If he's not going to play, sell him. I mean, same thing goes with the paper rumors I just read today right there about Kanate, that he doesn't rate Kanate. Sell him. I mean, move these players on. I mean, if the manager not going to play him, it's part of the game. Get rid of him and move something that he's going to play. But I don't know. I'm hoping for the best over the next week because I don't want to go into the 17th with having a mess on our hands. And right now, at my moment, I'm thinking right now that we are going into an unprepared right there, even though it's Ipswich. But look at that line right there, that first month right there. We've got a couple of matches in there that are going to be potential banana skins. But if you don't have the squad right there to go at them, and then we may be and set ourselves behind points before we even start.
Speaking of banana skins, just gone back to Duffer 75, who's giving us love from the Banana Republic of Ireland. It's like 1 a.m. over there, Duffers.
Hey, I was giving him that intro.
Fair play to him. Fair play to you, Duffers. That's what we like to see. That kind of commitment. It's at the Banana Republic of Ireland. I don't know. I've lived there, so. And then evening to Richo65. Love to see everybody out and making their comments, and also hopefully joining us for the podathon on Saturday from 12 p.m. Saturday to 12 p.m. on Sunday, the following day, 10th and the 11th. It's going to be insane, mostly because we're all going to be on it at some point. But let's nicely segue, Trevor, from the team we may have, depending on transfers, to the team we have had from day one of Arne Slot's reign. And we have we've had a successful pre-season. We beat United, always a nice thing. But we've seen some good things. We've mentioned Carvalho. He scored twice. I still don't think he's going to be a key player of any description, especially not with who he's competing against for the positions he plays in. But did the preseason give you hope that at least the foundation that was left for Arne Slot is good enough to keep us competing for the top 4 places, if not the league? Because to hark back on the transfer thing, if we're not going to pay the prices Manchester City are, and Chelsea are, and Arsenal are, Spurs are, so we may lose out on a title challenging team because of our transfer policy. But the base that was left, it looks good. It looks like they've adapted to Slot's strategy quite well, and they look like they enjoy playing it more. Importantly, are you encouraged, or do you have any doubts or concerns going into the Ipswich game?
Yeah. And as always, everybody can take and glean whatever they want from preseason games. I don't take a lot. Big one, no major injuries. Curtis is already back. So that one, which we kind of had a little bit of a iffy moment with that. Players that were on the fringe got their opportunities, and a lot of them looked pretty good. So either that is shop window and you're just kind of bumping their price up, or you're giving them confidence to come into the team, back off a loan, and they're ready to really buy into Slot system. And as you were saying about like people really getting into it, I think the biggest part of it is just the freedom that some of these players have now. There was a bit of like rigidity to Klopp's deal where you had this one thing and you're doing this constantly. And if you break the thing, or you don't press properly, or if you don't do this, that, and the other thing, it kind of makes everything fall apart. Where now with Slot, the way he kind of sets his teams up, there's a lot of wiggle room for guys to like, oh, I think I can exploit this over here. Yeah, that may leave a little bit of a gap, but if there's somebody recognizing that, and just from Slot's histrionics on the sidelines, I think he's really just from because I didn't watch the Betty's game, but I saw the other two, and if he sees a guy like missing an assignment, it's incumbent on him. It's not like, oh, you guys are just sitting there pointing their fingers on the field. He will go, no, you.
Somebody stole Trevor's signal, Brian.
Wow, I think he got my own internet.
It would have been. It was Michael Edwards. He was looking for more money. That's what it was. So we're gonna leave. We're gonna leave Trevor there in his mid Saturday Night Fever dance pose. So we'll go to Brian. What have you seen in the preseason that has impressed you? Have any players impressed you? For example, yes, SG has it perfectly. He ran out of internet. SG, you were exactly right. He had 12 measures of internet to use up tonight, and he used up 11 just logging on. But who's impressed you? For example, I've been quite impressed by Bradley playing as the proper fullback, not having to worry about any kind of inside out kind of stuff. Costas has actually impressed me because like he looks like he's been told he's given a chance. So he's not just his normal enthusiastic self. He looks like he has a plan to try and challenge Robertson, because Robertson is getting on in years and there might be an opportunity for him. And then I think I number one, and this is going to make an Anne cry, but I think Thiago would love to have played for Slot because of the freedoms given. And on the reverse side of that, I think Elliott really loves playing for Slot, and he looks like he's going to be a better player if that was possible under Slot than he was under Klopp. No disparagement of Klopp at all, but he's a creative player, and I think Slot's going to give him that chance to show everybody what he can do.
I mean, Harvey definitely impressed me during his preseason. I mean, just because I think you're given that little bit of more freedom of movement, because I think that when you have, he lost power. So I think that was a good thing for him. I mean, I think that Klopp's the way Klopp's system was pretty rigid. You had there wasn't less freedom. You were obviously full press the entire time for this. Where it seems like that Slot is more of a possession based, like, but with a mini press to it. So if you could look at the like the way his tactics are, that the front press that he does when the opponent has the ball, it's like it's the pressure that they make mistakes right there. But it's not the whole entire system where everybody's going up to the front right there that you see with the way Klopp does. And so I think that like you said, Thiago would be great with this because especially with the double pivot, that I think that with that Slot uses so much more, I think that would go through and would help Thiago's game so much because the ball's going to go through those that number 6 or his accompaniment through there, less where Klopp's ball was going out toward the wing, and like I explained, I think last week we were talking about, where everything went over outside right there, either went to Robertson or went over to Trent. So I think that's going to be different. Bradley definitely impressed me because Bradley actually played a fullback role, which is what you need to have in this system right there, is a fullback role, versus where Trent is more of a player that drive another offensive player right there versus a defensive and / offensive player. Because if you watch, like, Bradley actually tracks back, and I don't see Trent track back much. Especially on that side right there, when you have Mo on that same side, it opened up a lot of issues right there, which we saw plenty of times last season. Bradley doesn't open it up, which I think actually helped out Kwanzaa, who's another player that really impressed me this preseason. I think that having Bradley alongside of him is a little bit of self-assurance. I think they fed off each other a lot right there in those matches. I think that so. Kwanzaa to me right there is probably my number one impressed player, and I think that I mean, obviously he's a defender with it. Another one that was the last match that Jaro's impressing with there in that last half right there playing against Manchester United because some of his saves were pretty top class. I mean, if we do happen to move Kelleher on, I think that we do have a pretty good chance right there of having a backup with Jaros and then maybe get somebody to replace Adrian after that, like that as a third keeper, kind of like an old head through there. But I think that I think the preseason right there showed that our, like you said, our players are able to adapt to a new system right there. I mean, again, it's not like drastically not against Klopp. It's more of a step down with the possession right there, more of a pep type football that we were playing, and you can see how Slot has been has watched both Klopp and Pep's types of play and adapted them to his own style. I mean, I think that's going to be a good thing for us. I think that we have the tools to go there to achieve on both with the system.
We have Trevor back. There he is. He's back again. And this wouldn't happen. We would be able to secure against this kind of incident if people make sure they watch the podathon on Saturday and donate or sponsor an hour even, especially if you sponsor my hour, because I'll do the Anfield rap with the accents, a cappella, live on air, you poor people. But well worth it because it's for a good cause. So Trevor, we were talking about players that impressed. Have any players impressed you during the preseason? Bradley, Jaros, Harvey Elliott looks like he's going to love this system. Curtis Jones looked like he might. He's spoken about how much he loves the freedom he's getting. But let's think about let's say Salah, Gakpo, Diaz, and Nunez. How's this system now that we've seen a lot more of it? How do you think it's going to impact those players?
The first name that I think it was the second name. Who gave Alan the password? But my biggest thing is Harvey, and I think it's something that we've been harping on for a long time on this show. That Harvey is, it's just, it's his time. It's his time to be a consistent part of that midfield, and just let him do. Well, then log out of the account, and you won't get compared to Allen. But I agree that Bradley, looking as comfortable as he is incredibly helpful, because there's going to be a lot asked of Trent in terms of versatility. Yeah, I always do the wrong thing. I'm like, do I point this way or do I point that way? And doctor, but I just kind of want to see, more than anything, I want to see Bradley get especially if Gomez goes, I want him to be that guy that they can't leave him out of the lineup. They have to find a place for him every week. And even if it's off the bench, I think he's a guy that you need in every game in some capacity, just because of what he brings to the table in terms of defending, in terms of work rate. Bradley and Harvey have really kind of just taken this preseason by the scruff of the neck, going, you can't leave me out of anything. And they justly deserve what they have, I believe, earned.
Brian, as the Thursday night crew, with the more patient midfield build up, are you seeing in your mind's eye a better connection between Nunez and the midfield and Nunez and the attacking three? Or are we going to be having this same conversation we had all last year and half of the year before, that there's just a lot of good things about him, but not in the crucial areas that we need a number 9 to be clinical in?
I think we'll have a better connection right there, because I think that we're going to have somebody play behind Nunez, and I think that will be able to give a transition to him. Because what the problem that happened right there with the way we ran with the front three, you always wind up having you're having somebody, that center person, drop back a little bit further, a little bit down toward the pitch right there, and you had your left or your right person move, like on the midfield, move in. With this system right there, where you have a 4-2-3-1, where you have the three midfielders behind. I think that one person right there, and that's playing the number 10 slot right there, will be able to create a transition point right there for Nunez, and maybe hopefully quit him from being offside every 5 minutes right there, which somebody he can play off of. So yeah, I think this will possibly be a good setup for Nunez. I mean, I think that I think a good competition between him and Jota for that spot. I think that Jota's a little bit more finesse, and I think where you can bring in Nunez right there for these like West Ham slugfest type matches right there, where he would, opening up. And then I still think that Jota is our super sub still. I mean, I kind of feel fragile with Jota being a starter in any team at the moment, just because of it's like he kind of has the Daniel Sturridge type syndrome, where it's like where he's going to probably go out injured if he gets a string of matches playing as a starter. So I think that if you have Nunez come there battering in, having Jota go there and mop up, I think we've got a good recipe for success with that. And I think that Szoboszlai right there is and Harvey together is going to be a pretty decent lineup. But I think that my biggest confusion thing to wonder right there is where Macka winds up playing on here, whether Macka's going to be back there in that double pivot, which I do think that's a good possibility. But if we get a number 6, I can't see Macka back there in that same position, because you're kind of taking away a little bit of his game. Because I still think that even though the boss doesn't want to hear this, I still think that Trent is going to wind up being somewhere in that double pivot. I just got the feeling.
But if we're going to accept that Endo is not the number 6, the starting number 6, he's a good backup. Would you envision the double pivot, the 4-2-3-1? Let's say, ignore the back line and the goalkeeper for now. Trent and Macka as the 2, Salah as the 7, Diaz or Gakpo as the 11, Nunez as the 9, and maybe Harvey or Gakpo as the 10, or Szoboszlai as the 10 even. I mean, there's a lot of combinations that we could play. We could almost do horses for courses depending on the opposition, couldn't we?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that, and again, right there, I just don't want to see if we can get Macka to sit back and, play that kind of like stringing the match together as a quarterback, which I think he's definitely, in American football terms, I think that he has that capability of having the ball transition through him and having Trent come in there and make those runs right there, where, and deliver the ball into the box and all that. I think, sure, that'd be a great thing. But I do think that that what we saw last year when we had Macka back there and playing that holding number 6, I think that you lose some of Macka of his creativity in that process. But I mean, again, with the double pivot, it's going to change a lot. So I mean, sure, I can't see why not. I can see Bacitek going there and actually sit in that position too. I mean, like you said, there's lots of different combinations. But if we do go there, bring in Zubimendi right there, I mean, that just changes everything in my opinion. I mean, with him because you're dealing with a Rodri type player in there, which everybody in our Discord channel right there has rated Rodri as the best player in Manchester City. So I mean, if you come there and have him in there and that Rodri / Xabi Alonso kind of like hybrid, it changes a lot of different things right there. Then I'm not sure whether Trent would be that player to play alongside him. Then maybe it would be a backup beside him right there. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what we wind up having as far as the midfield goes. And it goes, whether we keep some of the high profile players like a Salah, whether Salah is going to be here before we end. I mean, I'm not sure.
Trevor, in terms of the defending over the preseason, I thought we looked fairly good, but an amazingly different defensive strategy. Almost the kind of thing you kind of hoped Brendan Rodgers had done and did in a couple of games where it worked quite well, and then he just abandoned it, where it's almost like a basketball style of defense. As soon as we lose the ball, everybody's getting back to defend. not always about the press. If we don't win the ball in the initial press, we're not continuing to press, and then you hoping the offside trap saves us. It's okay, the first press was beaten, the second press isn't ready. Let's all get back in front of the box and throw our bodies in front of the ball, which I thought was a great thing to see in preseason because it meant the players are eager to please. Do you think that we may see, if that is Slot's system, an end to gifting early goals like an Oprah Winfrey episode that we've done so frequently under Klopp, and give everybody, you have a goal, everybody gets a goal in the first 10 minutes.
Check under your chair, you have a goal. But yeah, I think and there were times with the defense that kind of got bailed out by just, I'd say, just preseason rustiness. Kelleher that kind of did a lot where you're just going, that's in the regular season. I would kind of be a bit more pissed off about that. There was not a lot of sharpness from the center backs. I don't even want to get into Kanate, but it's one of those things where those type of mistakes are.
Kanate hasn't been sharp since he discovered cheese. He looks like he's eating all the wheels of cheese.
Why couldn't he have gotten the Parmesan, like the Parmesan cheese sponsorship? At least it would have made things make more sense. But that being said, I really think that all of the deficiencies that we're kind of seeing now, where people are kind of getting back into the swing of things, having those extra layers of defense, and like you said, kind of treating it like a weak basketball press, where you just go, if you can't get the ball on like the first two traps, just get back. And then when you get the ball back, because once you are in that kind of compact setup, you can swarm guys and you can put people under pressure, but you're doing it at like midfield, and you there's a bit more room for error, where if you overcommit and you get burnt, and then you have two lanes going, and then you got a 3-on-2, then you're putting your center backs in poor positions for really no gain. But I want it to be something where there's like a concrete, every single time that we lose the ball, that this happens. But I also kind of want there to be that bit of spontaneity where, okay, if we're facing a team that does have those kind of center backs and D mids with the yips, that you will maybe every once in a while commit an extra couple guys to a press, just to kind of not just capitalize on that potential. We'll see if Slot has a bit more adaptability than Jurgen did on that front, because even if it was a game where there were flaws to exploit, I think he was just so beholden to his system a lot of times that he never really gave the players that license to really go and make something of it. But that we'll see, especially against Ipswich, a team that I think at home is not going to give us a lot of leeway, how he kind of attacks, how that first game is going to answer a lot of questions, I believe.
Nick says that we were all pro players. If I me as centre midfield, Trevor striker, and Brian's right back. I'll let you into a little secret. I was a nifty little goal scorer in my young days, and I remember playing in a game once and scoring a hat trick against some very, very good players in 15 minutes. It was a 10-minute hat trick. But all the teammates were angry at me because apparently you're supposed to score against the other team And what was the point of that? Because all their players were up there. So I don't know what they were all mad about. I got the goal, so I looked great. Now that would be a frightening team. But to be fair,
I'm left-footed, so it has to be on the other side.
If I
have a Joe Gomez scoring record, so putting me up front,
you could be the inverted fullback, Brian. Yeah, you don't want me in central midfield for fitness reasons, but you probably do want me in central midfield because I take up the entire centre circle. So I'd force the team wide without even getting up off me fat backside. It would be fantastic.
Yeah. If you put me up front, you're going to be firing a lot of crosses because I probably don't even have to worry about CTE at this point with the amount of times I've hit the deck in my life. So just fire them in and I'll just throw my head at it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to track back at all, though.
It worked for Niall Quinn.
Fitness concerns very, very high with me.
It worked for Niall Quinn. That's all I will say. So from the preseason friendly so far to the preseason coming up ahead, we play Sevilla on Sunday. But before that happens, we have this amazing thing, a 24-hour podathon, 24 hours of American Scouser TV, all of the hosts, all of the action, all of the insanity per hour. You get good value for your insanity per hour for a good cause leading into the Sevilla game. We need sponsors, we need donors because it doesn't work if we don't get donations, but we are trying to raise money for Jamie Carragher 23 Foundation. It's a fantastic. You could win that jersey, the one that's the man himself is holding, and it's 12 p.m. Central Time. US, that's not even a real time, but we're gonna accept it for now because we're on the eastern seaboard. We're the good people, but it's a great cause. It's going to be a great day. I don't know how we're all going to do, and I don't know how the lads are going to do it. Tamuchin and Gali and all that. There's going to be plenty of coffee being drank, I would imagine. But we'll all lead into the Sevilla game. Brian. We've done so well so far on this preseason. I personally I would like to win it, even though it's a preseason game. But more importantly, I would like to see more of the players that have just come back get some minutes so we can see how they're learning the new system. What are your thoughts for the Sevilla game on Sunday? What do you want from it, and how much do you care about the result being the last game, I believe, before we play Ipswich?
I don't really care so much about the result right there. Again, it goes back to still this continued fitness right there. I want to see some of the players that we know are going to wind up being in the Ipswich squad get more minutes. But I think more is going to be on play with the Las Palmas match behind closed doors. That's the one that's actually going to be where we're going to see a lot of these players get a good run out right there who are probably going to be that just came back from I mean, we could possibly see Trent start. And we can see Trent and Gomez, or see some of these other players that came back to see Verge, those guys start from the get-go, but only because they're probably want to play a 45-minute half right there, then having the other guys jump in. And then I think behind closed doors, I think you may see a good 60 minutes right there on some of these other guys that just came back, just to kind of get them into the rigors of playing for the following week. So again, no injuries, fitness, just go there to see more of the system and more of the players get introduced to the system. That's all I really worry about right there, And that's what makes sure that we can get a good firm workout prior to playing Ipswich. That's it.
Trevor, I do agree largely with Brian about the result not mattering, and I don't get the idea of the closed doors Las Palmas game because I'm pretty sure they're going to show it on LFC TV. So they may as well just open it up and have fans go in as well to watch it. But it's probably going to be one of those where they have rules like, you can maybe even roll on, roll off subs. There's not going to be any officialdom to it, yellow cards or anything like that happening. But as much as Brian is correct in that a lot of players that we've seen are not going to feature hugely during the season, it does speak well of Arne Slot if those players are getting and taking his ideas on board. Because to me, and do you agree, that suggests he's very good at getting his message across in a short space of time.
And with that message, from just Now, casual observer, it seems that things have just been simplified. It's go here, do this, and if something presents itself and you think you can do something else to better the team, go do it. That's kind of just the gist I got, especially from the United game, where there's a lot of guys who are just you always kind of were in that muscle memory of, oh, all right, so if this guy cuts in, I have to make this run. Whereas more is just, oh, well, this guy is kind of giving me this space. I don't really want to go and do the things that I was always really just hammered home that I had to do every time. You kind of just, and it sounds so fucking corny, like just going back to playing football again. But there's responsibilities that are going to come, and I think when the games mean something, there are going to be guys that have their feet held to the fire for, and I think it's going to be more towards the back of the pitch, as much as we really want to see Darwin get out of the gates. I think it's going to be whoever's paired with Verge. If Trent is able to kind of hold his own as a right back first, if Robbo is completely healthy, because he looks like he can run for days, but there's just certain uneasiness with him where he just, you don't see that same unbridled confidence that Robbo used to always exude, where he would just run through a brick wall and then put a cross on somebody's head. There just seems to be a bit of doubt with him a lot of times, which his entire tenure here, you really didn't see until like the last 4 months of last season. And his run in the Euros kind of got cut short. And I don't think that, to be fair, nobody had really exuberant expectations for Scotland, but the way that they kind of just petered out, and he seemed pretty beat up about that. I want him to come in and just get that confidence back more than anything, and kind of just, if Robbo can get an assist in this first match, I'm going to just have such better expectations for the back line, because I think a lot of it is just leaning down to confidence more than anything. These guys need to just get that small W to get them back on track.
Brian, for the kind of the last serious game, the last like tour game, so to speak, before it becomes a genuine training session again. We don't want any injuries, but are we looking at possibly, just to be a bit maudlin for a little bit, are we possibly looking at Kelleher's last game for Liverpool in any of these two games?
Yes, absolutely. I really think that Kelleher wants to leave. He's already said he wants to leave. I think that we've kind of like said, hey, we'd like for you to stay as our number two. He said, no, I want to play. And, at 25 years old, he deserves the right to go there to play first team football. He's a first team keeper. I mean, to deny him that right there is not just. I mean, so he's done his good service for us. I mean, he came there and handily won the Carabao Cup a couple seasons ago. I mean, so he's got his mural in there with all the other keepers who've won shootouts. So I mean, let him go there and let him go play football. Or let him go play his match. I would prefer that he not play in England. I mean, because I don't want to go there and have to go up against him. He's not like a Kirkland or somebody like that who we've had to play against. Or like, it's just Kirkland. We're okay. I mean, I'd rather him if he's. But the problem is right there is, I think that Kelleher has a future with this club. So I would like for us, if we do sell him, to put on a buyback clause on there, or a sell-on clause, or some type of clause right there. If Celtic want him, then we should go there, go sell him, and he's willing to go to Celtic, sell him right there for a cheap right there. But you say, hey, guess what? We have first option on him right there as soon as he comes back at a rate that we want to set, so that we go there and can bring him back. Because Allison's not going to be here out for but maybe another season or two at the most, right there. I mean, so you need to go out there and that would be he would be a natural replacement to go right back in, and because we already know how he plays, he's already come out there and played for us, so he's a natural in there. So yeah, I would definitely go out there and sanction a move if that we get him back in some time, but it'll be sad to see Kelleher go because I enjoy watching him keep. I think that he handily saved us in this top 4 slot this past season right there when Allison went out. I mean, people had a lot of doubts about what would happen right there. Kelleher played like a champ right there. I mean, he had one match out of that string, and that was in Champions League that didn't go his way. Other than that, through the league, he played great. He played marvelous. But yeah, give him the opportunity to go play first team football.
I would say then, to go full circle, maybe an opportunity for Mr. I'm So Smart, Michael Edwards, to maybe organise a long-term loan for a year or two and then bring him back then, because in a year or two is when Allison's probably going to go. So if they pull that off, I will give Michael Edwards all the props he deserves, but he's not going to do that. He's going to sell him for 50 million to Newcastle. That's what he's going to do. He should have went to Celtic, but they've got Kasper Schmeichel now, so that's done now. He would have been in the Champions League as well. So with that, we're not going to do a score prediction for a preseason friendly. The best prediction we can make this weekend is that you all join us for the 24-hour podathon. It's a majorly important thing. There is the man himself, Jamie Carragher. He loves us, and he wants to steal our idea, quite rightly. 12 p.m. to 12 p.m., August 10 to 11th, US Central Time. So that's 1 p.m., I believe, our time. And you need sponsors for the hours. If you sponsor my hours that I'm on overnight, I believe it's 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. Central, probably Central. I will sing the Anfield rap with the accents, including the commentary and Bill Shankly as well. It's all there for you. Who wouldn't want to sponsor that or donate money to a great cause for that? I'm not dancing though. That we would just lose people if I did that. But it's a fantastic cause, and you should all pay attention to it and be part of it and join us in the madness and let us know all of your insanity as much as ours as well. But just remains to say before we go, thank you to Brian, thank you to Trevor. We have the morning coffee show tomorrow morning, so make sure you're paying attention to that for our updates on the podathon on the weekend. And send us coffee, even me, even though I don't drink it, send us coffee. It's going to be a long night for everybody, but a very, very well worthwhile one. And it would be great.
Send me energy drinks.
Send me Red Bull, because I really don't like.
I'll see you guys at 4:00 in the morning or 6:00 in the morning, whatever the craziness right there at Central Time. I don't understand it. I'm
these time zones, man.
Who needs time zones? Montana doesn't. So the morning coffee tomorrow, it's just an appetizer. You'll get a hint of what's to come tomorrow morning on the morning coffee and tea show, of which I will be drinking copious amounts. But it's a fantastic cause. It's the Jamie Carragher 23 Foundation, and look, he looks just so happy to be part of everything we do. But it doesn't work if people don't donate, either sponsor an hour or donate some money. We every little cent counts, and comes from anywhere in the world as well. You don't have to be in America to do it. So we hope you join us for that. Just remains to say thank you for joining us for tonight. Thank you for everybody for commenting. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow us. Tap the button lightly. Your keyboards are important to people, or your phone screens. And you will keep up to date with everything on our Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, and also join our Discord for the chats and our Patreon for the extra special stuff. But we will see everybody at the weekend, if not tomorrow morning. And we will say for this Thursday podcast, for the last weekend of pre-season before the real serious stuff starts, it's time for the 70s power music. Peace out.